At least 25 people are dead and dozens injured in Ukraine after the worst attack in recent weeks. Russia launched nearly 500 drones and fired 48 missiles targeting power infrastructure in several regions, causing significant damage to civilian areas. Now rolling blackouts are in place across Ukraine to preserve the energy grid. ABC News Chief Foreign Correspondent Ian Pannell's here with more. Ian, NATO jets even scrambled for this. What's the latest on these attacks?
Yeah, I mean, this was certainly one of the worst attacks, one of the heaviest attacks with one of the greatest tolls in terms of deaths and people injured that was seen by Russia against Ukraine this year. I mean, Russia targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure, but as we've seen repeatedly and increasingly, it is civilian areas that are also being hit. In this particular incident, a missile struck a building in Ternopil. This is in the west of Ukraine, a city that has pretty much been unscathed by the war so far, absolutely devastating the upper floors. You can see it in the images there. There's almost nothing left. Now, this obviously struck at a time of day when people were at home, when people were in bed, and that accounts for the high death toll, 25 so far, but those rescue teams are still hard at work, looking for survivors, looking for bodies, trying to identify exactly who was there at the time. And it wasn't just in Ternopil. I mean, there was more than one strike in Ternopil, but Kyiv in the northeast of the country, which is only about 30 miles from Russia, a city, the second largest city in the country, a city that's pretty much been on the front line since the start of the war, a city that's been hit probably more or at least as much as any other city. Again, a number of projectiles, missiles, drones landing, hitting a shopping mall, hitting residential areas. Again, dozens of people there were badly injured. Over 100 people across the country were wounded in these attacks. And for now, at least, there doesn't seem to be any clear end in sight.
And Ian, top U.S. Army officials are in Kyiv today to meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky about restarting peace talks with Russia. So what can we expect from those talks, and how can these attacks impact those conversations?
Well, it's interesting. You know, I'm not entirely clear on the timing. We know that the U.S. contingent has arrived in Kyiv. Whether they were there at the time of these attacks, we're hearing reports of another attack in Dnipro, is not entirely clear, but they'll get to see for themselves firsthand. I mean, it's been notable that there have been very few visits by senior Trump administration officials to Kyiv, unlike the Biden administration, since President Trump took office again. For example, Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, hasn't been there. So this is certainly one of the most senior delegations. Yes, they're going to meet President Zelensky, but they want to meet defense officials, business leaders. And there are two main objectives here, which I think tell you a lot. One, as you said, is to try and restart the peace process. There are suggestions that discussions have been going on in the background, and there are proposals potentially to put to the Ukrainians. Meanwhile, you've got Zelensky going to meet with President Erdogan of Turkey and possibly talk to European officials. Again, we're seeing these competing peace plans. The other key thing is they want to learn about Ukrainian drone technology, because it's a fact of warfare that no one can ignore anymore. Diane?
Ian Pannell, thank you.